Hello and welcome to lesson 5 in this video series looking at getting started with OpenInsight 10. Andrew bought me a new little toy lately, a new microphone setup for producing these videos. The old one was causing me some big problems, and I've managed to get rid of that. It was a very old sort of cheap gaming headset with microphone built in. Now I've got a much better system where I can see what's going on and manage to sound a little bit better. So hopefully the quality will be a lot better, but I'm really chuffed with this bit of kit. It's really working well. Right, today is going to be very much a hands-off lesson again, I'm afraid. There's going to be a few of those leading up to when we start to build the system. So we're going to be looking at the database manager. If you are not that interested in that at this stage and you just want to get into building something, then jump this lesson and the next lesson, probably the next lesson I'm going to be looking at buttons, but jump into the one where we start to build the forms. But for the moment, I think it's good to cover a little bit more of the background of OI 10. Before we do that though, in the last lesson we were building the dictionaries. Now hopefully you've gone ahead and built those, but did you remember to change some of the properties? So for instance, on the apps table for ID, did you remember to change the default to sequential key? And did you set the validations appropriately? And on the date, have you set your preferred date? So for me, the validation is D and the conversion is DL because I want to have the full date. So the 1st of March, MAR 2018 or whatever the date is. You'll need to set those according to your locale. And on time as well, just make sure that you're empty and MTS. Hopefully you remember to do that. If you didn't, you're going to have to go back over the tables and redo those. Right, so to view the database manager, it's view, tool panels and database. Mine is already running. You might have the toolbox showing. If you do, just click on the database and make sure you've got the database manager showing. Now in here we can do a number of things. There's some buttons at the top, so we can add tables simply by navigating to wherever our tables are. So for my system, if you remember, I have them in a folder called, can't find it now, MP Clinic, there we are, data. So we click OK. That will then give you the tables that are available to you in that dictionary. You can add all, click apply, and then that will go ahead and it will attach the tables, and at the end of it, it will say, do you want to save the database image? You'd normally say yes. I'm not going to do that because all of my tables are attached already. We've then got a few buttons here where we can filter the list. So I'm on locations at the moment. I can also click system, and now at the bottom here I've got some system files. So if I just take locations off, you can see now that I've got the OpenInsight system files available to me. I can turn those off. Dictionaries, if you want to just see the dictionaries, then you can click on that as well, and you can just turn these off to your heart's content. And I normally just have locations showing, and the only location that I'm really interested in is my location where I've got my data, so these ones here. You can also define the database, which is basically going to save the database. It refreshes everything for you. Now for these tables here, we haven't got any indexes yet because I haven't created any, but if you right mouse click on one of the tables, then you can get all of the options that are available to you in the database manager. So we can open the table in the designer, so simply by clicking it, and it will open the table builder, and it will then enable you to view that in the designer here. If we right mouse click, we can print the dictionary. Now this is a word of warning about DPI, so let's just run the summary one for the moment. Remember, well, in the next lesson we'll be talking a little bit about DPI because we're going to be looking at buttons. But this one is a classic example of being aware of DPI in modern applications, because this report looks rubbish on my screen and I'm running 200 DPI. Don't worry, it's something that Revelation are looking at, and I am running with a very early version of OpenInsight 10. But I'm running at 200%. It looks fine on a screen that's running 100%. Running on 200%, this table has been moved over, and if you notice at the top here, these buttons are very small, and then this set of buttons are very large. So if you're looking at this screen thinking, crikey, that looks a bit bad, that doesn't look very well formatted. No, it doesn't on my machine, but it is something that Rev are working on. But just come back out of there for a second. So print dictionary enables you to print a summary, print it in a detail, and also print the detail with the formula. So that's quite a useful report to be able to run and just keep to one side for future reference. You can rename a table. So if I've got a table called test here, and I'm just going to close down that table actually, so I haven't got it open, and we rename the table, you simply get into this rename dialog. So the table name, this one is going to be mp_test renamed. So we'll just rename that. Tells you it's successfully renamed, and then it refreshes the view over here. So if I just go back to, let's just close these down, and you can see that I've now got a renamed table, and if I open that up in the table designer, then I get my renamed table. We can remove that table if we want to. So if we don't want it anymore, we can remove it. I don't need it anymore, so we'll just remove that. So remove all in the volume and remove selected tables. Be very careful you don't remove all in a volume, otherwise you will be getting a bit of a mess if you just want to remove the one. So we can remove the table. And do you want to save the database changes? Yes, we do. And you'll see then that we are updating the database image. And again, the database manager refreshes. So if I go back to patients, we can copy the table, we can delete the table, and then we get an option for indexing. So we can add a B-tree index. So I don't know too much about indexing, I'm not going to get too involved, but what we could do in here, so we're on a B-tree, so we could add a B-tree index to comments, for instance, and just add, and then that will add the index. And then we can have the indexes being case sensitive, and we can ask it to build it immediately. Now, if you're putting an index on a big file with lots of data and everything else, you might want to untick the immediate build, create all your indexes, and then do an index rebuild and let that run overnight. I'm not going to do that right now. We've also got a cross-reference index that you can add, and we've also got, which we will use, adding a relational index into the system. Now we will do that later when we associate two tables to one form, so I'm not going to worry about that too much at this precise moment in time. We can obviously then rebuild the indexes for that particular table, so there are no indexes there to rebuild, and you can do them just one index or rebuilding all of them, and you can delete indexes. You can also list them. You can add tables, alias tables, clear table, that will be clearing all the data that is in a table and put it back to square one. So that's quite useful if you're creating a gold copy of your system and you've got some test data that you might want to get rid of. You've got MFS control. MFS is a modified filing system, so you can put an MFS on this table, and then you can define when that MFS runs. So at the end of the chain, at the beginning of the chain, etc., etc. MFSs are very advanced topic and not something that I will be covering within my series of videos. At the bottom, we've also got LH Verify. Now this is quite useful where you suspect that something might have gone wrong within your data. Maybe you might have got some data corruption, maybe some unusual results are coming back. In here you can simply select the table that you want to verify. So I've got the dictionaries at the top, and if we come down to MP patients and we go verify, the verify is complete and everything came back, the testing was okay. Now very quick because I've got next to no data in here. There are options, so you can verify all in a volume. So if we click that, then we get the top box is now enabled, and we can click verify and it will run through them all. Verify selected table, which is the one that I just did. You can ignore the errors. You can clear the syslhv table, as if you wish to, and you can get detailed or non-detailed statistics. The results are at the bottom here, and you can display the statistics for the table. So those are all the statistic information. So let's just close out of here, and if you've got a GFE, then you can fix a GFE in here as well, or attempt to. You can display the group information. You can fix GFEs, and you can print the report. Obviously, it's not a lot for me to print because everything came back okay. But that's where you can run what we call a verification on your linear hash tables. And then the final option in the database manager is simply your LH table information, which is a similar thing that we just looked at a moment ago. But if you remember back to when we were creating the dictionaries, I was talking about the file names on disk and the table names. So if you need to know the file name, so let's say you were going to deploy an upgrade and you want to deploy a completely fresh copy of your system, but you wanted to attach the end user's data, what you would do is you would deploy your entire system with all of the LK and OV files, these rev files. You will then go into the client system and you would grab the data file. So this would be the MP patients data file. You'd grab that file, so the rev 53001, drop that into your gold system, and you should be set to go. Now, take that advice under advisement. I'm not a professional, and you should get technical advice from a professional before you do what I've just said. Don't just blindly go ahead. But I believe that is how you would deploy a gold system, and the important thing here is that's where you find out which of the rev files that you need to grab. And at the top here you've got the dictionary files. So somewhere up here I've got MP patients, so that one is 53000, and if I come down, the associated one is 53001. Because I created my dictionary and my data table at the same time, they are sequential. I then got all of the OS information, the estimated data size, so the number of records, the average size of the record, and then the frame information. This is this dark art we were talking at before. I have the ability to compress, and I can save these settings as well. So that's a very quick look at the Database Manager in OpenInsight 10. In the next lesson, we're going to be having a look at buttons, quick look at buttons. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.